Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth. Most people never stop to examine. Your life is not shaped first by the world around you. It is shaped by the words spoken quietly inside you. Every single day, before you take action, before you make a decision, before you accept or reject an opportunity, a voice inside your mind speaks. It explains who you are. It reminds you what you failed at. It predicts what will happen next. And whether you realize it or not, that voice is giving orders to your future. Two people can stand in the same storm. One grows stronger, the other gives up. The difference is not the storm, it's the story they tell themselves while standing in it. Most people are not defeated by circumstances, they are defeated by interpretation. The inner voice says, I'm tired, so the body stops. It says, I can't, so effort disappears. It says, maybe tomorrow, and destiny gets delayed. Here's the danger: if you do not control that voice, it will quietly control your habits, your confidence, your income, your relationships, and ultimately your identity. You don't become what you want, you become what you repeatedly tell yourself. Tonight is not about hype, it's about leadership, mental leadership. You're going to discover how successful people don't first conquer the world, they first conquer their thinking. You'll learn why discipline begins in thought before action. You'll understand how the language in your mind becomes the behavior in your life. So if you've ever felt stuck while knowing you're capable, if you've ever started strong and finished weak, if you've ever wondered why motivation fades, then stay with me. Because when you learn to command your inner voice, you don't just change your day, you change your direction. And direction, ladies and gentlemen, is what creates destiny. Every human being lives inside two worlds, the visible world of action and the invisible world of thought. What most people don't realize is that the invisible world is always in charge. Before you move your hands, your mind has already voted. Before you speak, your thinking has already decided. Before you quit, your inner voice has already negotiated the excuse. Your life follows your inner dialogue. If the voice says, this is hard, effort feels heavy. If it says, this is possible, energy shows up. If it says, you're not good enough, opportunity looks dangerous. Most people never question that voice. They assume it is truth, but it is not truth, it is programming. It is built from childhood, from teachers, friends, failures, media, and emotional experiences. And unless you interrupt it, you live inside it automatically. Think about this: two people lose the same job. One says, this is the end. The other says, this is a new beginning. Same event, different sentence, different destiny. The invisible conversation determines the visible result. That is why success always begins privately before it appears publicly. Long before someone becomes disciplined, confident, wealthy, or strong, they first become structured in thought. They stop allowing random thinking and start practicing intentional thinking. Most people are exhausted not because life is hard, but because their mind keeps arguing with itself all day. One part wants growth, the other wants comfort. The inner voice keeps negotiating delay, and delay is expensive. When you learn to listen to your own thinking, you discover something powerful. Your voice is either training you forward or training you backward every single day. And the first responsibility of leadership in life is not controlling others, it is controlling the conversation inside yourself. Everything you do begins as language in the mind. Before action becomes habit, it starts as a sentence. The problem is most people speak to themselves carelessly, emotionally, and unconsciously. The inner voice says, I'm bad at this. Soon it becomes a belief. The belief says, why try? And behavior disappears. Language is not harmless. It is architectural. It builds the structure of your confidence and your limitation. If you repeatedly tell yourself, I'm unlucky, the mind looks for proof. If you say, I'm learning, the mind looks for solutions. Your brain is obedient to language. That is why successful people are very careful about the words they allow in their thinking. They don't deny reality, but they design interpretation. They replace complaint with command. Instead of saying, this is impossible, they say, what's the next step? Instead of saying, I can't, they say, I'm figuring it out. Over time, those small sentences become belief systems. And belief systems drive behavior automatically. You don't force confidence, you program it. Most people wait for motivation. Leaders create vocabulary because vocabulary becomes identity. You are always speaking yourself into a future. Either you're narrating fear or you're narrating growth. Either you're rehearsing excuses or you're rehearsing progress. If you want different actions, don't start with your calendar. Start with your language. Change what you say in your head when things get hard. Change what you repeat when you fail. Change what you whisper when no one is watching. Because behavior is not random. It is the echo of belief, and belief is the echo of words. Control the words and you control the behavior. You were not born with your current inner voice. It was taught. It was shaped. It was conditioned. From childhood, people around you started giving your mind instructions. Teachers labeled ability. Parents modeled fear or courage. Friends rewarded comfort. Media repeated limitation. Failure added emotion. And slowly a mental script was written. By the time most people become adults, their voice is no longer theirs. It's a collection of borrowed opinions. School teaches safety. Culture teaches comparison. Social media teaches approval addiction. Past mistakes teach hesitation, and unless you become aware, you begin living someone else's mental program. That's why many people sabotage success, not because they hate progress, because progress violates their mental conditioning. Their voice says, people like us don't do that, or that's not for me, or stay normal. The mind wants familiarity, not excellence. So when opportunity appears, the voice protects identity instead of possibility. Awareness is power. The moment you realize this voice was trained, you realize it can be retrained. You are not obligated to obey every thought. You are allowed to edit your thinking. Successful people audit their mind. They ask, where did this belief come from? Who taught me this limitation? Is this fact or habit? When you question the script, you take control back. Society will always offer comfort thinking. Leaders design growth thinking. And the day you stop accepting mental inheritance is the day you begin creating mental ownership. You cannot stop thoughts from appearing, but you can stop them from commanding. That's the difference between reaction and leadership. Most people let thoughts happen. Leaders choose thoughts deliberately. Rewriting your mind starts with interruption. When the voice says, this is too hard, interrupt it with, hard is how I grow. When it says, I'll do it later, replace it with, no, builds momentum. You don't argue with negativity, you replace it with instruction. Your mind is like software. If you keep running old code, you keep getting old results. New future requires new mental commands. Repetition is powerful. The brain believes what it hears often. That's why successful people rehearse thinking. They speak direction, not emotion. They don't wait until they feel ready. They talk themselves into readiness. You build your voice through daily intention, morning thought structure, goal reminders, failure reframing, progress language. Soon discipline stops being force and starts being identity. You don't become strong by accident. You become strong by speaking strength into your thinking daily. Rewrite the script and behavior follows naturally. People think discipline is physical. It's not. It's mental. Long before the body obeys, every failure of discipline begins as a sentence, just today. It doesn't matter. I deserve comfort. Discipline is simply the ability to override emotional thinking with intentional thinking. Successful people don't have more willpower. They have better mental orders. When the voice says stop, they say continue. When the voice says comfort, they say progress. You don't need motivation, you need instruction. Your inner voice should sound like a coach, not a critic. A coach says, stay in it. A critic says, you're tired. Change the tone of your voice, and performance changes automatically. The mind is the gatekeeper of habits. Train the gatekeeper and habits align. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. When you master your inner voice, life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. You stop reacting. You start designing. Architects don't hope buildings stand, they plan structure. And your mind is the same. If you don't design, environment designs it for you. You decide what language lives in your thinking. You decide what standards guide your behavior. You decide what story runs your future. Greatness is not loud, it is intentional. It is built quietly through daily mental leadership. The moment you command your inner voice, you stop negotiating with fear and start directing with clarity. And when your mind follows you instead of fighting you, success becomes natural, not stressful. Because in the end, the strongest leader you will ever meet is the one speaking inside your own head. Control that voice, and you control your life.